If you can't punctuate, if you don't put full stops, if you don't use capital letters, if you don't do what you're told to do, gone. And I just became so ruthless in the process.
Who just said terrible?
Me.
Fucking hell, Belinda. You're like my biggest critic. Every time I do something, you're like, shit.
No. Hey, I tell you what, I did your recruitment process.
Yes.
Very interesting. So I'm going to write some little feedback. We need to give people the heads up as to, like, it's excellent, but give people the heads up as just how long it takes. And look, I don't profess to have a huge amount of experience at all of this stuff, full stop. But look, it's a very funny, sort of sad, long story. I did a LinkedIn ad and I had forgotten that I had turned off my LinkedIn notifications because they drive me crazy. And evidently when you do an ad, it's linked to that, like they're all in together notifications. So I had another website sending applications to the Google form. So I was still getting applications on the Google form thinking, oh, there's not many, this LinkedIn ad's not working very well, but obviously it's still working. Only to find out that it was working all right. I just wasn't getting the notifications. So of course it ran over a weekend. And I came in on the Monday to, like, I don't know, 56 applications or something. And I was like, shit, we have to turn that ad off. And then I was in the middle of moving house and had to shortlist. And one thing, you said how good you are out of like 1 to 5. I also added in partway through the process, how many years have you done? Because I know years doesn't equate to goodness, but you can also have the reverse. You can have someone who's done a year's worth of Google ads and say that they're a 5. So I ended up asking both those questions in relation to conversion tracking and Google ads, and it was interesting. And oh my God, the crap that I got, like, instead of asking comedian, I asked TV show. And one guy wrote not applicable. Instead of I read books, I would have loved it if he said that. It was not applicable. I'm like, you're gone. If you can't punctuate, if you don't put full stops, if you don't use capital letters, if you don't do what you're told to do, gone. And I just became so ruthless in the process.
Good. Yeah, it is designed to be ruthless, and it's to call people out who are lazy on their applications, because I don't know why people don't think, oh, I'm going to be scrutinized if I can't be asked to punctuate or use shorthand or something. It's weird, but it does. It works to help you filter out your 50 odd, or God forbid.
Yeah. Also, when I asked them to send me one guy, when I asked them to send the resume onto Google Drive, no word of a lie, I reckon he went into LinkedIn and did some sort of weird extract and saved the screen as a PDF, and it kind of truncated it all into like half an A4 and just went all the way down the page and just went file save as, and sent that to me and as an appropriate resume. I'm like, yeah, nah, that's not going to cut it. But then here's what happened at the very end. I picked a lady who I thought was was my winner. And I'd said to her, told me her available dates, and I hadn't definitely said yes, but we were heading in that direction. She emails me like 48 hours later and goes, I'm really sorry, I'm going to pull out of the race. I'm like, no. Oh. So she's yet to tell me. She didn't tell me. I asked her why. She didn't tell me. I had a second place getter, and I was just like, fail quickly, Belle, move on. So I went to my second place getter, had a subsequent conversation, asked some more questions, and she literally started working yesterday.
Well, that's quick.
So
it's been a success so far.
Yeah, like she seems, everyone can present well in an interview and everyone's on their best behaviour for the first little while, and, we'll see. But already she's articulate, she's answering questions correctly, she's asking me questions, she's pushing back, she's using her head. So let's just see how it rolls. Good.
Okay. Yeah, well, I'm interested to hear your feedback on the bits that weren't quite right or weren't clear.
I think the time frame of how long, like allow even like a couple of months, because if you're like Mr. Fancy Pants and have a really good manager and can sit there not working in your agency, then yes, you have all the time in the world to be picking people. But if you're in the weeds, like most of us are, trying to do the doing and be the thing, and especially if it's a first hire, it's not my first hire, but I'm only a tiny agency, then you're trying to do all the stuff. and try and recruit, and it's massively time consuming. So I would say take longer, like a month, or probably, I probably did it in a couple of weeks, but it definitely doesn't take days. And then the only other one was that question about years and how good they think they are, because you can kind of match it up. I did do the personality test because I actually was asked to do that by somebody in my broader network, and they are a friend of mine. So I actually had a source of person that I could go back to and say, hey, what about, I didn't abuse the friendship, but I said, hey, what about these three? What do you reckon? How will they work with me? Will it work? And that was really interesting. And then I worked through, your questions, and it was fascinating to the ones that stood out that I remember were the ones about what's good and bad about your boss. That was fascinating because there was one where I was like, all the bad things, I'm like, I'm that person.
Yeah. Yes. Precisely. And isn't it wonderful? People feel, I don't know if you found this, people feel more open about talking about someone else in a negative way than they would themselves. Most people really struggle to talk about themselves negatively or find a weakness. They half-heart it. On the technical question, you said 1 out of 5 for Google Ads. Maybe I should have put a bit more specifics in that. I think you asking about conversion tracking is more appropriate.
I asked both. Because you can have 10 years experience and be good at Google Ads, but not have any convert. I wanted somebody who had both skill sets.
Something specific.
Yeah, and so I asked for score out of 5 for both Google Ads and conversion tracking, and then halfway through the process, I missed out on the answers for some of the people, but halfway through the process added in years of experience to both so that you could match them all up. Yeah,
because no one's going to put that 1 out of 5 for their Google Ads, I hope, or even 2 or 3. I would have thought all respond.
I had people, this is on LinkedIn, I had people apply who had never done Google Ads.
Yes. LinkedIn's a pain in the arse for that. Did you actually did the person who applied come through LinkedIn, though? That you've actually hired?
I'll have to go back and double check. I think she might have.
Yeah, so you found the needle in the haystack, because LinkedIn is weird. It's like any jobs board. People just apply regardless. I don't think people read the job spec. They just apply, and shotgun and hope that they get an interview. I assume that's what people are doing, because they're just sending out hundreds of applications to hope that one will hit, instead of the tedious thing of actually reading a job spec and applying properly. I think people just go.
Yeah, I certainly sent them, if I sent them a spiel going, you've got to the next stage, Phil, do this, do that, and was pretty ruthless about how I shortlisted out of there. But yeah, it was fascinating. The whole process was fascinating.